I want to welcome you to Pastor Blast. Today is Tuesday, May 6th. Last month we had a great workshop, Telling Your Faith Story. The purpose was to encourage and equip people like you and me to be willing to invite others to come to church and even think about sharing our own faith story. I know this is the forbidden zone for Lutherans. We have nightmares about having to discuss anything like the Bible or the church or even our own testimony. To try to calm these fears, at our workshop we had one of my favorite things were crazy skits asking what are bad evangelism scenarios. Why do you cringe when it comes to outreach? First of all, we had Pastor Joe Judgment from Turner Burn Church, who showed up at the Rainiers game during the 7th inning stretch and was preaching damnation to the people there. The other one was the campus preacher in the quad talking to college students saying, I have the only answers and you're like a spider on a web, hellfire burning below. Well, that's not what we are suggesting, that kind of evangelism. We're talking about stuff that's relational, that is based on curiosity about another person's spiritual and faith interests and experiences. It's based on listening and asking questions and inviting others to ask questions. It is a national trend, sadly, of the great de-churching movement, it's called. 40 million people who attended church once or twice a month now only show up once or twice a year. That's 40 years later, and no tradition is immune from this. It started in the main line in the 80s, it was the Catholics in the 90s, and even the evangelicals in the 2000s. And it's all accelerated and it's been fortified through the pandemic. And it gets personal. For those of us, we have friends here at Peninsula Lutheran Church that have left, and that hurts. We also have family members, maybe our children that went to confirmation who don't go to church, who said that, now I'm spiritual but not religious anymore. Well, the data in this book, The Great De-Churching, says that 2/3 of people leave for rather casual reasons. They say, I just don't get anything out of it. I've got other priorities like my kids' sports. And they came to like their Sunday mornings. They just got out of the practice of worship, especially with the pandemic. And maybe they've moved to a new town was a really high one, or a new city, and going to a new church is pretty scary. Well, the other third were feeling hurt or just too much talk about politics or not their kind of politics, or they just found the church is cold. Well, with all of this doom and gloom, there's reasons for hope, because many, if not most, indicated that they'd be willing to be invited. And while people like their Sunday morning routine amidst of a busy, stressful week, they also miss and need belonging. And belonging means that you matter, that you have a voice, that you can make a difference in the world. We've got to remember the church isn't a social club. The church is not the people. It's not the building. It's rather God's people with Jesus Christ around word and sacrament, remembering that we belong to Christ in holy baptism. So this invitation comes back to you and me in the church to be willing to share our stories. And I think the reality is we all discount what has God been doing in my life. It's nothing impressive, nothing anyone would want to hear. And so, what do I have to say? Well, in fact, I invited a woman here at the church who I think has a strong faith. And she says, I can't come to that workshop because I just don't have much of a story to tell. Well, I asked her, what is your story? Well, when my children went off to college and everything, my husband and I got divorced, and I was all alone. So I really turned to Jesus. I'd always been a churchgoer, but now I really had no alternative but to pray and depend on Jesus. That is actually quite a good story, isn't it? A story about God meeting her in her struggle. And I think every one of us has a story like that in some way, with the theme that I turned to Jesus. That's what I did when my parents got divorced in high school. This is the kind of stuff people need to hear and we need to tell, because that's really why we're here at the church. Because you and I are invited to kind of be open to share our story, because that's what people are looking for. Amen.